which these sanctions regime are on. The sanctions regime are intended to penalize Russia for its intervention in the 2016 U.S. poll, its human rights violations, its accession of Crimean Peninsula, and its war operative in East Ukraine. The draft as well relating sanctions regime versus Iran and Polar Korea. The behind history: the draft was one of the at first trimming of main law convention ship trump card, and it served as a smack on the bracelet. Lawmakers gave themselves a new presidential veto force to unit the CEO of removal sanctions regime on Russia. U.S. intellect agencies had told it was his unanimity type how Moscow taken to hinder in the poll, but Trump card rejected to recognize the opportunity and forced a superior U.S. relation in Russia. How done human beings restless. So why refugee sanctions regime been announced still? Deadlines front his following last date is January 29, 2018. While the authority should include go out in the business community and enterprises of different countries, how include extended to do industry in such Ruski entities and that will person sanctions regime as a outcome. The authority is yet on plan, but he's take a time, and critics are observer close. Which do critics say on the latency? On the mound, Democrats say they're worried how realization is take so length, how the Ruski entities could include period to build new subsidiaries, how fly by the sanctions regime radar gun. Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, the elder Democrat on the Overseas Relations Board, told Thursday how they'll be observer the authorities' realization of the Ruski penalty law, how requires accountable as previous as following monthly, and we will be observer really close to do certainly they perform in the laws how we include gone. Which does the authority say on the latency? The targets the sanctions regime goal, human beings and entities, how erode U.S. computer security on name of the Russia by the government, put specific amounts in Russia's power exportable pipeline, hold considerable transactions in Ruski defense and intellect agencies, perpetrate, or help in, severe human rights atrocity, perpetrate acts of considerable corrupt practices, ensure supporting to the Syriac by the government to purchase weapon, put, or promote the invest of, $10 millionth or more than in the Ruski by the government's privatization of any country belonging property in a 1-year time, how could unjustly gain by the government officials or his associates. The draft inclusive 12 types of sanctions regime how can be superimposed and requires the CEO to use at low 5 in lot cases versus such struck. They can involve Chile holdings, such as characteristic, revocation U.S. visas, and prohibiting U.S. supply to such authorized. Was where radioactive fallout following Trump card signed the law? Moscow blasting the draft and later said the U.S. it had to bring the amount of its tactful personnel by 755 as so as prohibiting it of with 2 properties. The U.S. retaliated by expressive Russia it had to shut its San Francisco consular agency and annexes in Washington and New York. All how intended Trump card's hopes for a heating US-Russia relation will include to expect. Which's following. All eyes are on the authorities' January 29 last date to declare sanctions regime.